What happens when a father starts speaking and Dr. Phil immediately raises his hand and says, "Stop the tape. Stop everything right now." The cameras froze. The audience went silent. A father sat in that chair, trembling, holding a secret about his missing daughter that no one, not even the producers, had expected him to reveal on live television. What came out of his mouth in the next 60 seconds would change everything. It had started 3 weeks earlier when the Dr. Phil's show received an email that stood out among thousands. "My 16-year-old daughter Emma has been missing for 8 months. The police have given up. My wife has given up. But I can't. I need help." The email was from Robert Mitchell, a 48-year-old factory worker from Ohio. The producers did their research. Emma Mitchell had disappeared on March 14th after school. No witnesses, no body, no leads. The case had gone cold within weeks. But something about Robert's desperation felt different. They booked him. Nobody knew that Robert was carrying a secret that would tear apart everything the audience thought they knew about missing children cases. The taping day arrived. Robert walked onto the Dr. Phil stage looking exactly like what he was, a broken father. Unshaven, eyes hollow from months of sleepless nights, wearing a wrinkled button-down shirt. He carried a manila envelope clutched against his chest like a lifeline. Dr. Phil opened with his standard approach. "Robert, tell us about Emma." Robert's voice cracked immediately. She's my daughter. Smart, funny, wanted to be a veterinarian. She loved animals more than people." The past tense slipped in and out of his words unconsciously. "Walk us through the day she disappeared," Dr. Phil said, leaning forward. "March 14th. She left for school at 7:30 a.m. like always. She texted me at lunch, said she loved me. That was the last time." Robert stopped, his throat closing. The audience was already reaching for tissues. This was the story they'd come for, the grieving father, the missing daughter, the desperate search for closure. But Dr. Phil's instincts, honed over 25 years and thousands of interviews, were telling him something was off. "Robert, you're holding an envelope. What's in it?" Robert looked down at the manila envelope as if he'd forgotten it was there. "It's... Dr. Phil, I need to tell you something. I need to tell everyone something." "Okay, Dr. Phil said calmly. "What do you need to tell us?" Robert opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. His hands were shaking so violently that the envelope rattled. "Robert," Dr. Phil's voice softened. "Whatever it is, this is the place to say it." And then Robert said the words that would stop the show cold. "Emma isn't missing." The audience gasped. Dr. Phil's expression didn't change, but his posture shifted, a subtle straightening that signaled he was going into a different mode entirely. "What do you mean she isn't missing?" Dr. Phil asked, his voice measured. "She ran away. From me. From our house. From..." Robert broke down completely. "From what I did." Dr. Phil raised his hand. "Stop the tape." The cameras kept rolling, they always do, but the energy in the studio changed instantly. This wasn't a show anymore. This was an intervention happening in real time. Dr. Phil stood up. He walked to the edge of the stage and spoke directly to his executive producer in the wings. "Get our crisis team ready. Clear the green room. And someone get Emma's mother on the phone right now." He turned back to Robert, who was sobbing into his hands. "Robert, look at me." Dr. Phil's voice had shed every trace of television performance. This was the clinical psychologist, the man who'd worked in forensic psychology, the expert who'd testified in courts. "What did you do?" Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Robert couldn't speak. He held out the envelope with shaking hands. Dr. Phil took it. Inside were printed emails, dozens of them, between Robert and Emma from the months before her disappearance. Dr. Phil read them in silence while the audience waited, barely breathing. His face went through a transformation. Understanding. Anger. Resolve. These are emails where you're... Dr. Phil paused, choosing his words carefully for broadcast. Controlling every aspect of her life. Who she talks to, what she wears, where she goes. Robert, this is abuse. Robert nodded, tears streaming down his face. I know. I know it now. I didn't then. I thought I was protecting her. From what? From becoming like her mother. From making the same mistakes I made. From... Robert's voice dropped to a whisper. From leaving me. Dr. Phil paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. So Emma didn't go missing. Emma escaped. Robert nodded. She's safe. She's with her aunt in Oregon. She's been safe this whole time. The audience erupted. Some in anger, some in relief, some in confusion. Dr. Phil raised his hand again for silence. Robert, did you file a false police report? No. I told them she ran away. They assumed abduction because of her age. I never corrected them. I let the media run with it. I let the whole town search for her because I thought. His voice broke again. I thought if enough people were looking, she'd have to come home. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. He sat down next to Robert, not across from him. He placed a hand on the man's shoulder. Here's what's going to happen right now. We're going to take a break. You and I are going to go backstage, and we're going to call Emma together. You're going to apologize, really apologize, for what you put her through. And then we're going to get you into treatment because Robert, what you just described is obsessive control, and that doesn't get better on its own. Robert looked up, stunned. You're not going to tear me apart on TV? No, Dr. Phil said simply. I'm going to help you. But you have to do exactly what I tell you. Can you do that? Robert nodded. Dr. Phil stood and addressed the audience directly. Folks, this is not what we thought we were dealing with today. This is better, and worse. Better because Emma is safe. Worse because we're looking at a father whose need for control drove his daughter away. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, I'll tell you what happened in that call. The applause sign didn't light up. Nobody clapped. The audience sat in shocked silence as Dr. Phil guided Robert off stage. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. During the break, in Dr. Phil's private office, they put Emma on speakerphone. The conversation lasted 7 minutes. Emma's voice was small but firm. Dad, I love you. But I can't come back until you get help. You need to understand what you did to me. Robert sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just wanted you safe. No, Emma said, and Dr. Phil nodded in approval at her clarity. You wanted me controlled. There's a difference. Dr. Phil took over. Emma, this is Dr. Phil. Your father is going to enter an intensive program for parents dealing with control issues. He's going to do individual therapy. And when his therapist says he's ready, not before, we'll facilitate a mediated conversation between you two. Does that work for you? Yes, Emma said. Thank you. The call ended. Robert looked at Dr. Phil. Now what? Now, Dr. Phil said. You go back out there and you tell that audience the truth. All of it. And then you do the work. They returned to the stage. The audience had been briefed during the break. They knew Emma was safe. They knew the situation had changed. Dr. Phil addressed the camera. We just spoke with Emma. She is safe. She is with family. And she made it very clear that she left home not because she was abducted, but because she was being emotionally and psychologically controlled by her father. He turned to Robert. Tell them why you really came here today. Robert took a shaking breath. I came here because I thought Dr. Phil would help me convince Emma to come home. I thought he'd tell her she was wrong. But I was wrong. I've been wrong about everything. I need help. I need to understand how I became someone my own daughter had to run away from. Share this video and subscribe. make sure this story is never forgotten. The audience response was mixed. Some faces showed compassion. Others showed anger. But most showed recognition. The recognition of people who'd seen controlling behavior, who'd experienced it, who maybe had even exhibited it themselves. Dr. Phil didn't ask for applause. Instead, he spoke directly to the camera. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in Robert's behavior, if you track your kids' every move, monitor every friendship, make every decision for them, I want you to hear this. You're not protecting them. You're teaching them that love means control. And one day, they will leave, and they might not come back. He turned back to Robert. You took a huge risk coming here today. You could have kept lying. You could have kept playing the victim. But you didn't. That takes courage. Now you need to follow through with more courage, the courage to change. The symbolic moment came next, and it was entirely unplanned. From his pocket, Robert pulled out a small bracelet, purple beads with a silver charm. Emma made this for me when she was 10. For Father's Day. I've carried it every day since she left. Dr. Phil looked at it. What does the charm say? Robert's voice broke. Best dad ever. The irony hung in the air like smoke. Robert, Dr. Phil said gently, the goal isn't to earn that title back. The goal is to become a father Emma feels safe around. That's going to take time. It's going to take work. But if you do it, really do it, maybe one day you can give her that bracelet back, and she can choose whether to keep it. Robert nodded, clutching the bracelet like a prayer. 6 months later, Dr. Phil brought Robert back for a follow-up. Robert looked different, clearer, calmer, present. He'd completed a 12-week intensive program. He was in weekly therapy. He'd written Emma letters that he didn't send, processing his behavior with his therapist instead of putting it on his daughter. Have you spoken to Emma? Dr. Phil asked. Once. A month ago. We talked for 15 minutes. It was good. Hard but good. She said she's proud of me for doing the work. And the bracelet? Robert pulled it from his pocket. Still carrying it. But now it reminds me of who I need to become, not who I thought I was. The audience applauded, genuinely this time. The legacy of this episode extended far beyond that stage. The show received over 10,000 emails in the following week. Parents admitting to controlling behavior. Adult children recognizing their own childhoods in Emma's story. Dr. Phil's Foundation launched a new initiative, Parenting Without Control, offering resources for families dealing with these dynamics. And the manila envelope that started it all? Dr. Phil kept it in his office, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing a show can do is stop being a show and start being real. The bracelet went back to Emma eventually. 2 years later, on her 18th birthday, Robert gave it to her during a therapy session. She cried. He cried. And she put it on. Not because he'd earned the title, but because she'd chosen to give him the chance to try. That's what Dr. Phil does that no one else can. He sees past the story people tell, finds the truth they're hiding, and creates the space for real transformation to begin. One father, one daughter, one stopped show. And a family that, piece by piece, found their way back to something better than they'd lost. Because sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about letting go. And doing the work to become someone worth coming back to. But the bracelet wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. 3 years after that first appearance, Emma agreed to come on the show. Not as a victim telling her story, but as a young woman studying psychology in college, inspired by what she'd witnessed. She sat across from Dr. Phil, poised and clear-eyed. I want to talk to other kids who are living what I lived. Because when you're in it, you don't know it's abuse. You think it's love. Dr. Phil leaned forward. What would you tell them? That you deserve privacy. You deserve trust. You deserve to make mistakes and learn from them without someone monitoring your every breath. And if you have to run to be safe, run. But tell someone where you're going. The camera cut to Robert in the audience. He was crying, but this time, They were tears of pride, not shame. Emma continued, "My dad isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. But we're honest now. And that's worth more than the fake perfect family we were pretending to be." Dr. Phil asked the question that millions were wondering. Do you regret that first show? The exposure, the public nature of it all? Emma didn't hesitate. No. Because if my story helped even one kid realize they're in a controlling situation, or one parent realize they're being controlling, then it was worth it. Dr. Phil nodded slowly. You know what you just did? You turned your pain into purpose. That's the definition of resilience. The episode ended with a statistic that stunned viewers. After the original episode aired, the National Runaway Sapphire Line reported a 340% increase in calls from teenagers in controlling home environments. More importantly, they reported a 156% increase in calls from parents seeking help for their own controlling behaviors. Dr. Phil addressed this directly. That bracelet, that phone call, that father's breakdown, it rippled out further than any of us knew. Because real change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when someone is brave enough to say I need help in front of millions of people. Robert stood from the audience. Can I say something? Dr. Phil gestured for him to approach. Father and daughter stood on stage together for the first time in 4 years. I want to thank you, Robert said to Emma, his voice steady now. For being braver than I was. For knowing when to leave. For giving me the chance to change. Emma took his hand. And I want to thank you for doing the work. A lot of parents wouldn't have. The studio erupted in applause, the kind that comes from witnessing something genuinely transformative. Dr. Phil let it continue for a moment before raising his hand for quiet. This, right here, is why we do this show. Not for the drama. Not for the ratings. For this moment, when a family that was broken finds a way to be whole again. Different than before, but whole. He looked directly at the camera. And if you're watching this thinking I could never be that vulnerable, I could never admit I was wrong, remember this. Robert thought the same thing. Emma thought she'd never speak to him again. But here they are. Transformation is possible. You just have to be willing to do the work. The manila envelope that Robert brought to that first taping? Dr. Phil returned it to him during this reunion episode. You don't need this anymore, Dr. Phil said. These emails represented who you were. Not who you've become. Robert took the envelope. On stage, in front of everyone, he tore it in half. The symbolism was perfect. The past acknowledged. The future chosen. The work continuing. Because that's what Dr. Phil understood that day he stopped the cameras. Sometimes the most important thing a television show can do is stop being television and start being a witness to real human transformation.